All right, we have a lot more, including why the real estate industry has just said no to this tax cut plan. Doesn't like it from the get-go. You're hearing it from real estate brokers, realtors in general, the mortgage industry, home builders. Why is that? What worries them after this? To real estate broker extraordinaire Kendra Todd and Akron Ziff managing director Jason Meister. Guys, welcome to both of you. Kendra, I just don't see it. I don't see this being the death knell for housing or real estate. There might be other factors that happen here. I just don't attach this thing to its demise. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's certainly not good for housing, but I don't know how anybody can actually quantify that because of this, home prices are going to drop 10%. I mean, where do you even come up with that number in 24-hour time period? So I don't think it's going to cause the real estate market to go into a free fall, but it certainly doesn't help the market. I mean, there's a couple of important reasons why. One, it diminishes significantly the incentive to buy a home, and we already have first-time home buyers at all-time lows. And most of those people who are now renting are going to enjoy the doubling of the standard deduction, and so there's not really an incentive for them to buy a house. And there's no real advantages tax-wise. And also, all the people that are going to be grandfathered in to this plan where, they won't actually have to have a cap on their mortgage interest deduction unless they sell and buy a new home, those people just aren't going to sell. And so you have areas that already have inventory issues, and that's just going to get worse. So I do think that there may be a decline in the real estate market, certainly in coastal areas where you have more expensive real estate. But no, I don't think that the sky is falling.
Okay, all right. So, Jason, what do you think of that? I mean, a lot of people buy homes. They obviously would look at a tax consideration. I'm not naive, but they also look at the appreciating asset they're getting as well, and they're also living in it. For those who don't invest or buy a second home or vacation home, what do you make of that?
Yeah, Neil, I actually agree with you. I think that this is going to impact a very small percentage of the housing market, something like 5% of the housing stock in mostly coastal cities where there's wealthy people that have very expensive homes, and maybe they're not going to be as motivated from a tax incentive to buy a more expensive home and trade out of that already very expensive home.
Well, because for those wealthy buyers, a lot of write-offs do disappear, right? I mean, that's a legitimate concern. But would that dramatically affect beyond those coastal areas, any other areas?
I don't think so, Neil. I think that this tax plan actually is going to help for a robust housing market. I think that you've seen that we're going to slash the corporate tax rate from 35% to 20%. That's going to significantly put America first on an investment perspective. It's going to bring jobs back to this country. We're going to have wage growth. We're going to have a GDP that's going to grow above 3%, which we haven't seen for the last 8 years during Obama's administration. So I think this is going to be a very healthy thing for the housing market. It may not be so great for the wealthy people that live on the coastal cities that overwhelmingly are in the blue states, but I think it's going to be great for most of America.
Kendra, what are you noticing these days, this tax plan notwithstanding? What is going on with real estate right now? Of course, we've just been seeing some pretty buffo home sales news, home prices news. What do you see?
Well, I think it really depends on where you are. I mean, here in Seattle, we're in the hottest real estate market that's basically defying whatever's happening in the rest of the country.
Absolutely.
So we're kind of in our own little bubble right now, but I have a little bit of a concern that the rest of the country, can they really afford to see a big dip in home prices? I don't know.
Well, do you think the market's overheated, that prices have gotten to the point that it's a little too hot? I mean, nationally, Seattle notwithstanding, it's a unique
nationally.
Beast. Yeah.
Not nationally. Locally, I feel really uncomfortable with where we're at. But nationally, I think we've seen a pretty healthy recovery. And we've said this before, Neil. The real estate's cyclical. What goes up must come down, and it'll go up again. I just think that we'll probably see those cycles be a little less drastic in the future if these reforms do take effect in housing. So
Yeah, Jason, we now know that interest rates are ticking up a little bit. Market rates have not gone up much as the federal directed rate hikes have, and we're going to get another one, I guess, in December. But I'm always amazed by how constant the rate environment has been. Is that going to win out here? Does that, end up being the most crucial factor, or play it out for me?
I think it is crucial. I think that the job growth and low interest rate environments will make for a robust housing market. But going back, I just want to go back for 1 second to the tax code. I think what's interesting is tax code isn't really supposed to push home ownership. And this whole tax incentive is sort of this pushing of home ownership. It's okay for home ownership rates to come down to a healthy, robust level without pushing the home ownership rate to levels that we saw that where we became housing bubble, like 08. So I think that this is another example where tax code is supposed to bring up tax revenue without favoring homeownership over renters and pushing homeownership rates to unhealthy levels.
All right, guys, we shall see. We know that many in the industry are very concerned about that. All right, we should also posit here as we wrap this up that many in the housing industry have already said that they're going to target those congressmen who vote for this. And they have a great deal of sway. That is just the Home Builders Association alone in a lot of districts, and can give to campaigns that support their cause and deny funding to those that do not. So again, that's going to be something close to watch, because a lot of those congressmen who might be on the fence, including some senators who might be on the fence, they could be swayed by that. In other words, if the housing industry types are unhappy, well, you know how that'll go after this.